Franck Ribéry has stayed silent for years. Silent about the Ballon d'Or. Silent about the comparisons. Silent about living in the shadow of two monsters who dominated an entire generation. But now, Ribery has finally broken that silence. And what he says is disturbing. Because according to him, Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't destroy you the way Lionel Messi does. One exhausts you for 90 minutes. The other ends the match in a single second. So why does Ribery, a man who faced the strongest defenders, the fastest transitions, the most brutal pressure, admit that Messi frightened him in a way Ronaldo never did? What kind of fear is that? And what does it reveal about football at its highest level? Stay until the end, because this confession changes the way you see greatness forever. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what you're about to hear is not a usual Messi versus Ronaldo debate. To understand why Franck Ribéry's words matter, you need to understand who Franck Ribéry really was. Not just a winger, not just a dribbler, but a man who lived inside the most brutal version of modern football. At Bayern Munich, Ribery played against the most organized blocks in Europe. He faced elite defenders every week. He survived tactical systems designed to suffocate creativity. And above all, he lived through the era dominated by two names, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. While Ronaldo was posting seasons of 50 or even 60 goals, reshaping what physical excellence meant, Messi was doing something harder to measure. He wasn't just scoring, he was deciding games. Fast forward to today. At 38 years old, Messi still leads the charts with 71 goal contributions in a single season. Not because he runs more, not because he shoots harder, but because he sees the game before anyone else does. Ribery watched this evolution from the inside, from the pitch, from the moments where one decision changed everything. And that's why his confession hits differently. Because he's not talking about trophies. He's not talking about numbers. He's talking about fear. But what kind of fear makes a world-class footballer admit he was already beaten, before the duel even began? That's where the story truly starts. Franck Ribéry didn't speak when the debate was loudest. He didn't speak when social media was screaming. He didn't speak when his name was dragged into endless Ballon d'Or arguments. He waited. And that timing matters. Because when Ribery finally broke his silence, he was no longer defending a career, no longer chasing votes, no longer competing for recognition. He was simply telling the truth, without filters. In interviews after retirement, Ribery admitted something that almost sounds uncomfortable for a player of his stature. Facing Cristiano Ronaldo was exhausting. Facing Lionel Messi was destabilizing. And there is a difference between those two words. Against Ronaldo, Ribery explained, you prepare for war. You know what's coming. You know the runs, the power, the aerial threat, the repetition. The danger is constant, but it's visible. You suffer, but you understand why. Messi was different. Ribery described moments where nothing seemed to happen. No sprint, no gesture, no warning. And then, suddenly, the match was over. Not because Messi overwhelmed you physically, but because he chose the exact second when your structure collapsed. That's why Ribery didn't talk about goals. He talked about timing, about decisions made faster than defenders could react. He wasn't beaten in a duel. He was beaten in his head. And that realization, coming from a player who built his career on creativity and chaos, is what makes this confession so powerful. Because when Ribery speaks about fear, he's not talking about pain. He's talking about helplessness. When Franck Ribéry says that Cristiano Ronaldo exhausts you, but Lionel Messi ends you in a second, he's not being poetic. He's being precise. Ronaldo represents accumulation, pressure that builds, runs that repeat, a physical battle that lasts 90 minutes. You can suffer against Ronaldo, but as long as the structure holds, you believe you're still alive. Messi destroys something else. He doesn't attack your legs. He attacks your certainty. Ribery hints at a terrifying reality for defenders and midfielders alike. Against Messi, the most dangerous moment is not when the ball reaches his feet. It's the second before, the second when you hesitate, the second when you think you're safe, the second when your positioning is correct, but your understanding is late. That's the core of Ribery's message. Messi doesn't need volume. He doesn't need repetition. He needs a crack. One step too high. One defender looking elsewhere. One half space left unprotected. And once that second passes, the damage is irreversible. This is why Ribery doesn't describe Messi as overwhelming. He describes him as inevitable. Because inevitability doesn't come from strength. It comes from intelligence combined with timing. Ronaldo forces football to adapt to him. Messi waits for football to expose itself. And when it does, he strikes. That difference, subtle, invisible, cruel, is what Ribery understood only after living through both. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. To fully understand Franck Ribéry's confession, you have to step back from individuals and look at systems. Modern football is obsessed with structure. Lines, zones, triggers, pressing schemes calculated to the meter. And Cristiano Ronaldo fits into this world almost perfectly. He challenges systems by overpowering them. He bends them through volume. More runs, more shots, more aerial duels. You can design a plan against Ronaldo and suffer inside that plan. But Lionel Messi does something more dangerous. He makes the plan irrelevant. Ribery alludes to this without even naming tactics, because against Messi, it's not the system that fails first. It's the player. One defender steps out half a second late. One midfielder checks his shoulder too slowly. One line shifts perfectly, except for a single body angle. And that's enough. Messi doesn't need the system to collapse. He only needs one human moment inside it. Historically, this is why so many elite defenders describe facing Messi with the same vocabulary. Confusion, silence, inevitability. Not chaos, not panic, silence. Because nothing looks wrong until everything is. Ronaldo dominates the visible parts of football. Messi dominates the invisible ones. And Ribery, a player who built his career on exploiting space and disorder, recognized something terrifying in that. He wasn't outplayed physically. He wasn't outworked. He was outthought. And in modern football, where preparation is obsessive and margins are microscopic, being outthought is the ultimate defeat. That's the deeper meaning of Ribery's words. And that's why this confession resonates far beyond nostalgia. Franck Ribéry's words don't settle the GOAT debate. They destabilize it. Because for years, the discussion has been reduced to numbers. Goals per season. Champions League nights. Records stacked against records. Ronaldo's case is built on domination, on willpower, on the idea that greatness is something you impose. Messi's case, as Ribery indirectly suggests, is built on something more uncomfortable. Control. Not control of the ball. Control of the opponent. When Ribery admits that Messi could end a match in a second, he's revealing a truth many professionals hint at, but rarely say out loud. Some players don't need to win every duel. They only need to win the decisive one. This forces a different question. Is greatness about producing more, or about deciding faster? In a football world obsessed with intensity and athletic output, Messi represents a contradiction. A player who runs less, speaks less, celebrates less, and yet bends the game more. Ribery's confession doesn't diminish Ronaldo. It reframes him. One conquers football through pressure. The other rules it through understanding. And that difference may be the most important thing this generation has struggled to explain. Until now, there is something Franck Ribéry never said directly, but everything in his confession points to it. Fear against Cristiano Ronaldo is physical. You feel it in your lungs, in your legs. In the accumulation of duels, you keep losing. But fear against Lionel Messi is psychological. And psychological fear is harder to admit, because it suggests something unbearable for elite players, that preparation is not enough. Ribery hints at this when he talks about moments that feel normal, moments where the defensive shape is correct, the pressing line is compact, the distances are respected. And yet, the danger still arrives. This is why so many defenders say the same thing in different words. Messi doesn't look dangerous until he is. Against Ronaldo, your anxiety grows with every sprint. Against Messi, your anxiety comes from silence. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And then everything happens at once. Ribery understood that this kind of player forces you to play without certainty. You hesitate to step out. You hesitate to stay. You hesitate to commit. And in modern football, hesitation is death. This is also why Messi ages differently from other superstars. Speed fades, power declines, but anticipation sharpens. At 38, Messi doesn't need to beat you in a race. He needs to beat your next thought. Ribery, who spent his career exploiting instinct and improvisation, recognized a cruel truth. Messi improvises faster than you can react. That's not talent alone. That's a form of domination that survives time. And maybe that's what unsettles players the most. Because it means that even when Messi slows down, even when the body resists, the fear remains. Not because of what he does, but because of what he might do. Franck Ribéry didn't speak like a fan. He didn't speak like a statistician. He spoke like someone who has been inside the storm. And what he revealed is uncomfortable. Cristiano Ronaldo represents football pushed to its physical extreme. Preparation, discipline, relentless repetition until the opponent collapses. Lionel Messi represents something far more unsettling. A player who doesn't need to dominate the game to dominate you. A player who doesn't rush time. He controls it. A player who waits until you believe you are safe, and then ends everything. Ribery's confession doesn't crown a winner. It exposes a difference in nature. One greatness is loud, visible, exhausting. The other is quiet, invisible, and irreversible. That is why this debate survives generations, because it's not really about goals or trophies. It's about what kind of fear football creates at its highest level. So now the question is yours. Would you rather face a player who overwhelms you for 90 minutes, or one who needs a single second to make you powerless? Tell us what you think in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us. Because the most dangerous stories in football are always the ones told after silence.